Hi, everybody. It looks like a bunch of you are here. Just going to weave a few minutes today before I jump onto the comments, so weave with me. This is that little piece I was doing yesterday on the new little Mirrix loom. My fingers are all fumbly. Still doing pick and pick. And now I want to move that over. Actually, I'm going to have to start a new section. How are you all today? It looks like everybody is showing up and from all over the country and the world. Janet, Beulah, Colorado. I know where Beulah is, but I can't place it, Janet. So clearly I don't know where it is. I'm glad you all are here, and I've been enjoying weaving on this little loom today. Trying to learn to start the day feeling a little more calm instead of worried. I actually printed off something this morning that I saw on Facebook, of all places, that I meant to bring, and I did not bring it down with me. It was a psychologist talking about how to keep yourself from going crazy when we are stuck at home. And it's stuff like having a routine and remembering that people are all struggling, and also helping out where you can. Okay, so I want to, oh, this is really in the way, isn't it? Hold on. I want to add some of this orange in here. So, sorry you couldn't see that. I have a new piece of orange here, and I do have a little diagram thingy that I'm looking at. It looks like I've sort of veered from it somewhat, but I'm gonna stick this in here and figure out what my next color is here. So when I do, let's see if you can see this. When I do the colors, I just take a piece off as long as I want. This yarn is fairly weak, so I just break it. It's a singles yarn, so it doesn't have a lot of, it doesn't have ply, it's not a 2-ply, so it's not all that strong, so I just break it with my hands. Not great for your hands, actually, to break yarn. I've stopped breaking the Harrisville Highland so much, because that's not that hard to break either, but it's hard on your hands. So be nice to your hands and use scissors. What I want is for this little orange thing to travel up. And I could do that either by having the pick and pick on each side with the background color, or like I did here, I did a single wrap, but you can see right there that it looks different than the pick and pick when I did it as a warp wrap instead of this way. So I'm not actually as happy that the quality looks different there. So I want to try. Oh, see, now that gave me 2. I don't want that. I hope that you all are doing all right and that you are weaving. Let's see. Let's see what you all are up to. I'm just gonna go. Good morning, everybody. Kate, good job. San Francisco Bay Area. Hi, Lynn from Edinburgh. There's so many of you from all over. Thank you for coming and for saying good morning. And Cape Cod is stormy. Hi, Katie. Good to hear from you. I have clearly changed my view there. I meant to do that. In case you want to look at that a little more. My little duck came today. This is the first duck that I've done from a new Moki Moki pattern. And he has a little bit of a problem with his beak because I just learned this pattern. So anyway, distractions. Nora, great. I'm glad you got the comments working. Hi, Harlan. Y'all can hear me, I assume, or you would have told me that you can't. Oh, Marlena, that's what I was talking about. The Margie Donlan's mental health wellness tips. If you're on Facebook, I'll put those on my Facebook business page today. It's just basic stuff like take care of yourself and come up with a schedule and get dressed in the morning. Actually, that I put on blue jeans today and that did seem to help. I need one. This will help. Sorry, you guys. Sorry about that. That should, I'm just trying to get, whatever. Just trying to get the light better. Sheila, big question, weaving from the front or the back. I talk about that a lot in courses and Facebook Lives and stuff, and I could talk about it a little bit more here, but mostly I'll give you the Cliff Notes version of front versus back. Nancy, God bless you. Nancy is working ICU COVID-19 right now, so do some weaving, Nancy. Thank you so much. Oh, good. Yeah, Pick and Pick is really a fun thing to use, Anne. So put it in your thing. Yeah, Michelle, I think that using little looms, I always get it backwards. There's my big loom. You can just see the edge of my favorite loom, and of course this big loom back here. Big looms are fabulous. To be able to weave large is really fun, but it's nice to have a small loom at a time like this, I think, because you don't have to be so hard on yourself. Actually, that was one of the main tips I wanted to tell you about what the psychologist said, is don't be so hard on yourself. Give yourself a break. I'm massively more irritable than I have been in my normal life, which is not saying a lot, but it's just because this is really hard. Yay. Oh, Robin, sorry. I do have to tell you this. Wait, here, let me switch the camera. She's asking what Mochi Mochi is. I'm sorry. It's M-O-C-H-I, M-O-C-H-I. It's just a woman who makes little tiny knit patterns. And all those chickens that I've been posting for years now, she made the pattern for that. So she has a brand new pattern of ducks. So since it's Easter, I will be... it doesn't matter that it's Easter. It's spring. I will be making some little ducks for my nieces. So that was the first duck in the pattern. It was just something to cheer me up this morning. So Mochi, if you Google Mochi Mochi, if you're a knitter, M-O-C-H-I, M-O-C-H-I, you will find her name is Anna. Her last name starts with an H, and I won't say it right. But she has a lot of patterns on Ravelry. Great. Thanks for coming, you all. Linda. Yeah, Linda says, thanks for showing my studio. It's a mess, and I just decided that, it is what it is. And it's not the ideal studio that I wish I had, and that's just how life is. So it's okay. Yes, Sarah, and if you hang out and eat your breakfast, no one can hear you crunching. That's good. When you are in the Pacific time zone, it could still be breakfast time. Hi, Agnes. That's a call out to my mother-in-law. Good to see you. Thank you for coming. Don't cut your fingers breaking yarn. Yay, your saffrons have come. Okay. So let's go back to the weaving stuff. Oh, that's a great idea. Nancy says, and I would double this, Nancy. If you have some time on your hands and you want to learn a lot about tapestry weaving, go to the American Tapestry Alliance's website. You can spend a lot of time just looking through the artist pages. And those are rabbit holes everywhere because a lot of those people have websites that you end up on. But Nancy's saying to look at the ATA International Student Awards throughout the years. They are really inspiring. And so it's fun to see what the student award winners have been doing. Some of the ones from the last year even are just incredible. Paula, great question. So Paula is asking an actual weaving question with what I have right here. She's asking about this double half hitch row on a small loom. Is that all she needs to use on her Hoket loom for fringe instead of hem stitching? Yes, if you make those little knots strong, Paula, so pull them really tight. I'm doing these with warp. If you do it with weft, they might not be tight enough, in which case putting a line of these knots in with thread can be helpful, and then you can add your weft on top. But if you make them tight enough, they will hold. If you don't make them tight enough, they will not. So then you would need some further way to secure the weaving. But I often just leave them like this, and then I will cut the fringe off straight with a ruler. So Nancy, the pattern for the little ducks is, if you're on Ravelry, just look up Mochi Mochi, Mochi, and you'll find them. Or go to mochimochiland.com, I think is the website, and she has them on there. I think she actually has them on sale right now, the pattern, but full price is $5, so knit designers need us to support them, so just give her $5. Christine, that's good. Crochet tiny flowers in solidarity. I like it. Let me go back to Sheila's question about let's see. My mind is not good enough to remember these questions, so you might have to ask again. Great. So hatching. Who asked that? Anne asked, do you have a sequence or pattern that you follow, or is it based on the design, and how is it looking within the design for hatching? So it depends on how I'm using hatching, Anne. In this, let me switch my camera again. In this particular thing, I actually am using a little bit of hatching in here, and that is just somewhat to blend the colors. Often I use hatching to blend colors, and so then it would be for the design, but it's not, almost never planned, unless it's a design element, and then it would be planned, and I might have, I would call that regular hatching if I had lines that I was following in the hatching. So Sheila asked front versus back. So I talk about this a lot in a lot of places, and I probably have talked about it on the blog too, but I'll just say briefly that for these small pieces, a lot of this is just sort of, it's a tapestry diary. I'm doing it as a responsive thing. I'm doing it right now because the world is upside down. It feels hard for me, and so being able to put my hands on something that I don't have to fuss too much, that I can just respond to what I'm doing and weave in a way that's fun instead of worrying about creating a great big piece that I'm going to put in a show or that somebody loves or somebody purchases or something. If that's the reason you weave most of the time, you know, maybe you're going to weave. I don't know that that has to do with front versus back, but on these little responsive pieces, I weave from the front so I can see what I'm doing. It's more picture based. A lot of my other work is from the back, and it is technique based. I actually, yeah, I think that's all I'm going to say about that right now. Sheila, you're welcome to ask about that other places. I could talk about front versus back for 400 years. The weavers in France, the traditional European weavers all weave from the back. People tell me I'm nuts to weave from the back, but it is the traditional way to weave European style tapestry. So don't tell me I'm nuts. Not that you were going to, Sheila, but I get that a lot. That's just crazy that you would weave from the back. It's not crazy. But right now I'm weaving from the front. So Eva's asking, because I was talking about the double half hitch. Is there a difference between the half hitch and the double half hitch? Yes. A half hitch is simply... let me just see if you can see this. If this will focus. I want to leave my face up here. There are people on my broadcasts who are deaf or hard of hearing, and I need 10,000 YouTube subscribers to get closed captioning on my live feeds. So if you guys haven't subscribed to me, I would love if you did so that I can get over 10,000 subscribers so that the people who are hard of hearing can follow my live feeds and I don't have to show you my face all the time. But some of them can read lips, and so maybe they can understand some of what I'm saying when I have the camera here. So the double half hitch, let me just cut off a piece of this. A half hitch would just be around a warp one time. So I just went around like this. That's not actually a knot, it's just a description of make a half hitch, maybe a part of a knot. The double half hitch, you go around 2 times, and that makes a knot that is secure. Lots and lots of people use it as a header. So Eva also asked if that was what I'm doing for the header. That's what I did, a row of half hitches, and then there's a little bit of plain weaving in there with the warp. Hi, here's a good question from someone whose name isn't here about the Mirrix, and it looks like plain weave instead of tapestry. Probably you're not bubbling enough. So that's a good beginning question. If your weft is not covering the warp, you're not leaving either. The spacing of your warp and your weft are not the correct proportion. They have to match each other. Or you're not bubbling enough so that the weft is not able to go over and under enough to cover all of the warps. I recommend going to my blog and looking up a series of posts about SETT, which is S-E-T-T. Just Google on my blog in the search bar on the right, S-E-T-T, and you'll find there's about 6 posts about that, which will really help you figure out what might be going on there. I also talk about that a ton in my 2 beginning online classes. Robin, these bobbins are from 2 people that I think are fantastic. This is Melissa Ellison Dewey from Bobbin Boy, and this one is made by Alexandra Iosub, who has an Etsy store. Alexandra Iosub. She's also on Instagram, and it's fun to watch her feed on Instagram because she will show you when she has a whole new batch of bobbins ready to go. So they're both exceptional wood turners, and the bobbins are gorgeous. Nora's asking about pick and pick all the way to the edges. So I'll talk about that because of this piece. Most of my pieces, if I'm using pick and pick, I'm not running it to the edges because, as Nora says, it's really hard to get your edges to look nice and straight with pick and pick if it goes all the way to the edge, because it's not a meet and separate technique. You're having, you'll have these little blips on the edge everywhere. So I pretty much design my pieces so that the pick and pick does not go all the way to the edge on purpose because of that. If you want your pick and pick to go to the edge, you just have to accept that it will, the edges will not be nice and even. Okay. Pick and pick can be a real pain in the tuchus, as you all know, those of you who have tried it. But it is really cool if you can get it to work out well. It's worth the effort. So I have to fill in this little area. Because pick and pick is not a meet and separate technique, meaning that there's 2 butterflies following each other in the same direction, and they're not interacting with the background around it. I can't use, even though these colors are the same, I can't use this to fill in the background. And if you don't believe me, just try it. See if you can make it work. I challenge you. It won't work. I've tried for a decade. Doesn't work. So let's see. Now we could bring this one across. Don't like how that looks. This is where my pickiness, there. Lynn asked, is half hitch, double half hitch the same thing as twining? No, twining is a completely different, structure. Dorothy, thank you for your name. And I probably won't remember, but glad to know it. And it's an excellent question you're having. So keep asking and try putting in more weft to start with. Dorothy's the person who was asking about why it's not packing down and covering. Oh, Nancy, that's a great question. Nancy asked if there's a rule of thumb for weaving from the side. And I assume what you're asking, Nancy, is why would I weave something like with the design turned? So obviously this design, I wanted vertical lines. Actually, I could have woven it this way and woven the lines as bars of, maybe I'll do this again and I'll do it that way. Woven it as horizontal bars instead of using pick and pick. The difference is, and this is really the only answer I want to talk about today, is if I weave horizontally, so if this were sideways and my lines were woven this way instead, they would look completely different. They would look like tapestry. A tapestry line has these little waves in it, so they would be straight lines but sort of wavy, whereas the pick and pick lines are wider and they're vertical. So how I decide whether to weave something sideways or not depends almost entirely on the design and whether the techniques I can use in one orientation or the other are serving what I want the final design to look like. Janet says she can't find anyone who's making a shed stick this narrow. Oh, look at that. That worked out so nicely, but it's so wrong. Sorry about that cackle. It was the wrong color. So this, when you're weaving pick and pick, I do this constantly. I'm watching to make sure I want the line to be orange going up this warp. So I know right away that I had just put in the wrong color because it wasn't orange, it was blue. Actually, I want this to go under here. No, I don't. See how that's wrong? It's a float. I want it to go under there, but it can't because I put this in the wrong shed. So see how I want this to go under here, but it's in the wrong shed. So I could fix that a couple ways. The way I'm going to fix it is to take out what I just put in. Pick and pick will cause this thing where things really, your shedding can get really mixed up and you just figure out how to fix it. So I started this tail on this side. I can fix that shedding problem that I'm going to have in a couple sequences, which I didn't know I was going to have. And I probably couldn't plan for it. By starting, so what I did was start the tail on this side instead, which will flip my shed around, which will flip which shed, it will fix it so that my shed will work. Now you'll call me out as a liar. Nope, it does work. So now I'm back to here. And let's see if you can see that better. Now this shedding will work. So I can move that orange one over. Don't know if that made any sense, but it will make sense to some of you. Oh, pick and pick. Pick and pick is so cool and so frustrating sometimes. No problem, Michelle. Michelle is thanking me for trying to be able to provide closed captioning. It's important, and any of you who can help me out by subscribing to this channel. I have to have 10,000 subscribers to get that live closed captioning. So it's the red button on my YouTube page. Oh, great question, Ellen. No, Ellen, it's good you're asking about pick and pick because it's frustrating. It's very cool, but it can be super frustrating. So she's asking if I use an odd or an even number. And an odd number of warps is what she's asking. So an odd number of warps is easier with pick and pick because you always can use this little crossed edge thing. I'm actually most of the time fudging, and I use that crossed edge most of the time anyway, even when I have an even number of warps by fussing with it like I just did. So really, let me put this back and I'll show you what I mean. So the answer is no, I don't necessarily decide on using an odd number of warps just to make it easier for myself. I make it easier for myself by fudging. Instead of doing this thing where I made the cross and like folded it behind, the even number of, instead I could have done this, where I wrapped around and then made a float under this one. Is that gonna work? Nope. There. So that will cover this warp. And actually that wasn't quite right because I didn't have it set up right, but there's another edge treatment where you just wrap that edge warp instead, which that wasn't a good demo of because it wasn't set up correctly. But the answer is just that I use whichever edge treatment I need in the moment. So it's good to know both. Okay, let me answer a couple more questions. And Linda says, here, you can look at this so you can, that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking to hide some of my messy studio is what I'm looking for. And I still haven't figured out the camera issue, sorry. Linda says she's weaving on a Mirrix Big Sister 32 inches high and she doesn't have as much waist as I thought I would. How much waist do you calculate on the Mirrix? I don't actually know the answer to that, but think about the Mirrix loom and maybe I can talk about this tomorrow. I'm going to use a Mirrix again. The warp bar, I stopped the warp bar at the top of the loom, Linda. So measure, you have the entire back of the Mirrix loom plus the front up to your fell line. So you don't want your fell line to be right under the shedding device. So there's actually a big distance on the Mirrix on the front of the loom at the end that I don't use in terms of waist. So I would say 12 inches at the very least of waist on a Mirrix warp, and I would leave 18 inches of waist when you're calculating. So that might mean that you need warp extenders. Cool. Oh, Sue, great question. Here, let's look at that. So Sue wants to know how I would finish this little piece. So this piece, when I get up to here, will have, and again, I have put this in your way. I will do this header the same at the top. This double half hitch will hold, and I'll just take it off. This loom I can release the tension so I can just slide it off. And I take a metal ruler, which I don't see one right here, and a rotary cutter, and I actually just cut the warps at about 1 inch because I don't have much more than 1 inch here. And I cut them with a rotary cutter and just leave them. If I had wanted this to be hemmed, I would not have used this header. This header does not encourage the warps to go to the back. I also like to do a braided fringe, which I just shot a video of that, which is coming up in the design class, not this month, but in May. And I'll add it to the Little Looms class. So if you're in that class, it will have a new video soon about how to do that little braided edge where you just have a little tail. And I could do that on this, except that this is a very small amount of warp to do a braid. Dorothy's asking about beginning online courses. If you go, flip to the channel header for my YouTube channel, and there's a video about that, Dorothy. There's 2 classes, Little Looms and Warp and Weft. One of those, and there's a video about how to choose between those 2, right? It's like the feature video on my channel. Oh, Debbie says, whoever asked about the shed stick, check at Weaving Rainbow, and it might be weavingrainbow.com. Jessica, tell me if I'm wrong about that. Good morning, Sherry from California. Oh, I meant to show you a picture of my hike yesterday. I didn't upload it, but I went hiking yesterday, and I felt much better after going for a hike. So I highly recommend, if you live somewhere out of the city where you can go hiking where there's not too many people. Had to drive a ways, but it was well worth it. Oh, good, Marlena. Yeah, I'm always that. She's talking about fixing the shed, how I pulled this out and made it work by starting it in the other direction. So that happens all the time. It's not that I just magically always put things in the right way they need to go. I'm always pulling things out and fussing with it to get the shed to work. That's normal. So don't feel like you're screwing up if you have to do that a lot. That's actually how it works. Yeah, Angie, that's a good question. I am doing that. She asked whether I was twisting the weft bundle before putting it in, and I am. It's this is that Harrisville Cola yarn I use all the time, and on my big pieces, I ply it on the wheel, which I was talking about yesterday, if you want more info on that. It's almost second nature. Like, I don't even think about it as I'm putting it in. I'm just twisting it. Partly I'm doing that because I want these colors to blend together, and they'll blend better if I twist them. This weft bundle is just a little bit light. It's just a little bit thin for this 8 EPI set. And it will be fine because I will pack it together, but there's a moment where as the shed gets smaller, I sometimes use metal needles, or I'll just use a bobbin to get that weft to go through there. But this is a little light, so it's easy to start to see the warp. So I have to actually pack it in a little bit. All right, so I'm working on that. I will work on this some more and show it to you again at some point. Weactually, it's almost done. I'll probably finish it in the next couple of days. So it turns out that weaving every morning actually does mean that you weave things, because I started this yesterday, and if I wove on it this evening, I would finish it today. So weave every day. And Sheila, yeah, she's doing starts for her vegetable garden, and it helps with the attitude. I agree. Yes, I heard that all trails and parks are closed in California, and all of the state parks in Colorado are also closed, and most of the national parks in Colorado. I don't know if the sand dunes are closed, but the Rocky Mountain is closed, as it should be. That park is completely packed with people all the time. But it's hard to find a place to go walking. So find a green space or something if possible. I think if you live in New York City, it must be really hard. Find yourself a mask. Yes, Donald, I'm using the Kohler tapestry yarn. 3 strands at 8 ends per inch. And yes, Sue, that is how it works. That in Tapestry, it's always this thing of figuring out how to make it work. It's like a little puzzle that is constant. It just keeps going. Anybody have an idea for, Jennifer must be using a yarn that she's frustrated that the yarn is catching on the edges of her saffron loom. So I did see someone put tape on it, actually, and this would be a quick and dirty thing to do, Jennifer. Maybe it was you who I saw doing this, but I would use blue tape. But you might, if it's bugging you, you might just take a piece of blue tape and put it on. I like blue tape because it's not so sticky. Otherwise, that's probably what I would do because it would stay fairly well. But otherwise, I'm sure someone will think of something you could put over that. Yeah, Donald says the national trails and stuff are closed. Also, all the campgrounds in Colorado are closed, which is sad. A lot of them wouldn't have been open till Memorial Day anyway, but I don't know. We'll do what we can. So thank you guys for coming. I will pull out that hot flash tapestry, I think, again tomorrow. And you can see where I am on that. I have not done a whole lot, but I will work on that, and I will talk to you tomorrow. Oh, that's what I was thinking. Eva said for Jennifer, someone cut a plastic straw in half and put it on the lower peg. So that's what I was trying to think of. Like the Glamacra Freyha loom actually comes with a little wood thing that you can stick over the pegs. So I was trying to think of there's some kind of like a foam tube you could cut in half. I haven't had that thing where these snag the yarn, but I think it could also depend on what kind of yarn you're using. So yeah, let us know what you come up with, Jennifer. I bet you'll find something great. So thank you, Sherry. I hope that it does help. It helps me weave because I have to come up with something to show you every day. So I think it's good. I will see you all tomorrow, which is Friday, and then I will not be here on the weekend, and I will be back again on Monday. So we will see you tomorrow at 10:30. Have a great day. Go outside if you can, and do some weaving. And if you want to use this hashtag, if you use Instagram or Twitter, use that hashtag and post what you're doing. Or if you're in one of my online groups, show us what you're weaving because it's really fun to see what everybody's doing. Thanks, you guys. I will see you tomorrow.